Hey, how's it going? There's this dude that I know, and his name is Weldon Long, and he's got quite a story. And he's like this, motivational guy or trainer. And I've known him for a long time, and I've followed him for a long time. And he said something in this seminar several years back that I've just always kept in my mind, and I've applied it to a lot of things in my life. And he said, it's not that difficult to be great. It's not that hard to be successful. It's not even that hard to be more successful than other people. It's just a little bit easier not to be. That can apply to so many different aspects of your life, and it certainly applies to this discussion with Jason Phelps and Dirk Durham of Phelps Game Calls as we discuss the big news of Meateater bringing Phelps Game Calls on board. Let's do this. Here we go. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. All right. Hey guys, how's it going? This is Jim Huntsman, the host of the Western Huntsman Podcast. Thanks a bunch for joining. This is going to be a really fun episode. It's been one of my favorites to record, and I say that about all of them, I know, but, they truly are. And we are coming at you from the Broken Tine studio right here in Hayden, Idaho. That's right, one of the few podcasts not recorded in Bozeman, Montana. And we are going to have we've got Jason Phelps and Dirk Durham on, and you guys, if you listen to this show, you know who that is. Jason Phelps started Phelps Game Calls way back when in about 2009, and now he brought Dirk Durham on board, one of the world's best elk callers, which makes sense for a call company, right? I mean, Jason Phelps isn't too shabby at calling either, so it's quite apparent. It's been really fun watching these two kind of partner up and go at it with Phelps Game Calls and create the content and the calls and the brand and the company and all the things that they've done, and just wonderful, wonderful people. And so I'm really excited to get them on because we talk about, if you've been paying attention, the big news that came out that Meateater has essentially acquired Phelps Game Calls, and they're kind of bringing them on board as another offering of Meateater, the Meateater brand, which is, love them or hate them, Meateater is the hunting brand of hunting brands, right? I mean, they are the Mac Daddy of all hunting brands out there. So it's kind of a cool thing. It's been a wild ride for these guys at Phelps Game Calls, and the story that I've talked about it because you guys know, like, Phelps Game Calls is one of the sponsors of this show. And one of the things that I've always admired about the company is how the company started, basically is like this hobby side business thing, and it's just kind of grown into this monster of a hunting brand. And I respect that. And they're not the only brand out there in the hunting space that has this kind of story. There's a lot of brands out there that started this way. But that's always been this thing that I enjoy watching, an American dream come together and grow and see success and all these things that just make an American story great. And it gets me going. You guys know that, I get excited over that kind of stuff. So before we get into it with that discussion with Jason and Dirk, I want to talk just real quick about our trivia coming up, because the drawing is coming up like the end of March. And Dirk has told me that he is sending over a complete Phelps calling package. So there's probably going to be a bugle tube. There's going to be a reed or two in there. I'm not totally sure exactly what's all in there, so I don't want to overpromise, but he's going to be sending over a package to add to the giveaway items for this upcoming trivia. So I thought, it'd be cool to do something elk related. And so this week's trivia question is, are you guys ready? Here we go. They are louder than a vacuum cleaner or most alarm clocks, but not quite as loud as like a concert or a car horn. What is the decibel rate of a bull elk bugle? What is the decibel rate of a bull elk bugle? I kind of got tongue twisted there. Anyways, I'll give you some hints. So they're about the same decibel rating as like a lawnmower or a power tool or like a hair dryer or even a snowmobile. And there's some variance there. So there's not an exact number, but I need a range. Like if you're within about 10 points of that range is going to get you to an accurate answer. And so what is a decibel rating? And the reason why I think you guys should know that is because it's interesting how you can you can take that and you can imagine the decibel, the level of loudness basically to an elk bugle, so you could replicate that better in the September elk woods. And so that's kind of the point behind that. So that's the question this week. What is the decibel rating of a bull elk bugle? And send those in to jim@thewesternhuntsman.com, and be sure to put in the subject line that this is a trivia. You can just put trivia in the subject, and that way I can go in and do a search, and I just take all those emails, roll them into the lottery thing that I have on a spreadsheet, and when it's time to do the drawing, it just pulls a random winner out, and somebody is going to win a full-on Phelps Game Call package. So that is a question, jim@thewesternhuntsman.com. Guys, thanks a bunch for tuning in. Looking forward to this week's episode. You are going to hear my debut of a rap song, and that's right, yours truly rapped a tune in this one. And whatever, I get bored. Enjoy it. And here we go with Jason Phelps and Dirk Durham of Phelps Game Calls. Let's roll. This week, guys, I've got Mr. Jason Phelps and Mr. Dirk Durham, a.k.a. the Bugler, on for, and I don't know how this is going to go because, these two personalities on together, it could go sideways real quick. But, guys, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, I know how it's going to go. Jason likes to do all the talking, so I'm just going to go ahead and let him do it.
Might as well.
No, this will be the one platform, Dirk, where I'll just let you take over. You're way more exciting to listen to than me.
Wow.
You know, I've had both of you guys on the show, and they're always like smash hits, and people always respond very well to them. So I'm pretty excited about this conversation, and we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, good. Cool.
Obviously, anybody who's listening to my show, you guys know who Dirk Durham is. You know who Jason Phelps is. They're probably my two favorite personalities to kind of follow along, and in terms of September elk season, they're both really good callers. They're both, obviously, Jason started Phelps Game Calls back in 2009 and grew it into, what it is now. And Dirk, how long you been working for Phelps now?
I think this is year 2 of like being on the payroll, isn't it?
Yeah. I was going to say worked for 2 years and with for 4 years.
Yeah, I think so.
It's kind of how it breaks down. Yeah.
And Dirk, he treats you all right?
For the most part, he treats me like a mushroom most of the time. It keeps me in the dark and feeds me full of bull. But no.
I've dodged a few sexual harassment claims from Dirk, so I'm in the clear on those now. So
you got to have a good lawyer. You got to have a good lawyer when Dirk's on board, man. And so obviously there's been some big news lately, and that's really what I want to talk about mostly in this conversation. And that is the I always mispronounce this word. It's the acquisition. Is that right?
Yep, acquisition
of Phelps Game Calls. Go ahead.
Accusation. And I was like, what are you trying to say here?
It's usually what I do say. It slips out that way, man.
What's Doug Flutie have to do with this?
Oh man, I've been trying to get Doug Flutie on the line again. I want to get a winter update from him, but I just haven't connected with him. Is he around?
He is, but I think his cell phone bill slipped. And
Yeah, well, that's
the winter hasn't been too kind.
Speaking of that, I hate to do this, but I do need let's hold for just a minute because I need to play a quick commercial here so that we could pay our bills over. As Doug Flutie told me, Marlboro miles don't pay all the bills. So do you guys mind if I take a quick commercial break here and we'll get right back at it?
That'd be great.
Good.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that right now.
Yo, VIP. Let's blow it. All right, stop. Take a look and listen. Phelps is back with a brand new addiction, killing it. With the pink and the maverick, smoking Doug Flutie like a motherfucking savage, unrivaled, acting like a renegade. All of the others looking like a bunch of cupcakes. If you ain't calling with an amp in your mouth, you're doing it wrong and you'd best turn around. Now, they gone and done it again. Jason and Dirk played a whole new game. They made a deal with the best of brands, with the funny names and the funny mustache. They'll be hanging with the Meateater crew, getting nicknames from the Meateater dudes. If you have a problem, don't be a loser. They got you covered. It's Jason and the Bugler. Phelps, baby. Phelps, baby. Phelps,
Wow.
baby. Oh yeah. Phelps, baby.
Oh goodness.
Sorry, guys. Some of my sponsors are a little low budget, and that's what they send me to put on the show. And I don't know.
That's as good as it gets right there.
If I had more time to work on that would have been really cool. So with that, tell us about this new transition, this new partnership you're doing, Jason. You want to kick us off with that and give us kind of an overview of it?
Yeah, so it's something we started working on about mid-August. We went over there to talk. We were, for people that don't know, we've been working with Meateater probably about the same time I've been working with Dirk, maybe 4 or 5 years. Been on the podcast for a long time. I think we were like in the teens back when Steve originally started the podcast. We just kind of worked together, and we were in talks about, what it's going to look like in the future, like what level we wanted to be in. And then while I was over there in Bozeman for a meeting, it just got brought up, like, hey, just curious, would you ever be interested? I'm like, no, I don't think so, but what the heck, we'll take a look at where it's at,
Yeah.
And to be honest, like, I'm probably was the worst business guy ever. Just fortunately, I had been doing the books right and honest, because, to be honest, I never ran this thing to sell it. And these big business guys, they talk about profits and losses. I'm not going to sugarcoat. I didn't do any of that. I just ran the business to the best of my ability and got it out there. But anyways, kind of fast forward through.
To stop you right there, you were running a business that was growing at a pretty rapid rate, and while also working another job. I mean, it's yeah. So there's something to be said for that. So anyway, keep going.
I mean, that's a testament to. I mean, I don't give Dirk shout outs very often, but that's a testament to like the team we had in place between marketing and sales, my wife, my mom, Tyler, our workers, our contractors. Like, it would run itself. And I always kind of use the joke that it's kind of nice. I get to stay here, get to take all the credit for the company. But then as soon as shit hits the fan, like, I got to run away and make my wife deal with it or Dirk deal with it. So I was very involved. I worked long hours and everything. But, when it really boils down to it, like the business side of it, like I was learning, at 90 miles an hour. I didn't really know what I was doing. We started to talk. I had never been through one of these before. And so I don't even remember what the name of the damn form was. I signed something from like the mountaintop when me and Dirk and John were in New Mexico. Like, yeah, we'll give you like an exclusive 100 days to open up the books and look at the business. And as things started to progress, like, stuff started to go through my mind. Like, I was still really apprehensive. I don't want to do this. I'll let them look. But in the end, I'm probably going to walk away anyways and do my own thing. And as we started to look at, benefits, and there's no denying, with an 11 and a 9-year-old now, like my kids were growing up fast and all they knew was this business. Like 2016, even though from the outside it looks like we're having great success, like I haven't taken my kids on a family vacation since like 2016, crazy hours. no benefits for the employees and all of this. And then the business started to pencil out pretty well. And it was going to be a point where, um, there's no denying I don't like talking about it, but there was a payday in it for me, and that is important to kind of set myself up for the future. And, we kind of looked at all of this and I think I brought it to Dirk and like, hey, this is what we're looking at doing. Like there's some good, there's some bad, there's some, this, but I need help really in making the business bigger. I recognize some of my downfalls. Like I can keep designing calls and figuring out how to get them made, but there were issues. And as we basically progressed all the way through, and as things started to look well, we started to kind of hone in on that like closing date of 12/31, the very last day of the year. And we'll look at that. And by the time we were done, I don't want to get nitty gritty of like all the talks we had and some of the stuff that's like way over my head. Like, oh, you got to hire a mergers and acquisition lawyer. Like, where do you find one of them? Lewis County doesn't have any of them.
Yeah, you just Google.
It's like, well, everybody's in Seattle, So it was an interesting process. I'm glad I did it once, and hopefully I don't ever do it again. It's just so much like lawyer jargon for days, and I mean, Dirk got to see just a minuscule portion on like his employer agreements and stuff, and it's different than what we had. Our handbook was like 3 pages. Here, don't do this, don't do that, and
don't snort heroin in the manufacturing facility.
Yeah. Just do everything good, and we'll be all right. We're reading a 60-page handbook. What can we do here?
That's the Meateater handbook.
Yeah. So it was, and of course, I got to tell a funny on Dirk, and we've had a lot of jokes and laughs about it, and I'll tell you the reason why. The very first thing, I sent the handbook to Dirk, and maybe I'll let him, but I get a one-liner from him. He's like, did you read this page such and such where like you can be nude in the office or nude as long as it's in the intent of content creation? I'm like, I don't believe Dirk. So I go and open up the handbook, and I'm like, nope. Sure as shit, Dirk picked out like the most awkward phrase.
Of course, Dirk finds that.
Oh yeah, I think he did like a control find looking for nudity or sexual act or anything.
If it's
what do you think I'm wearing right now?
He's like a hound. Anytime there's nude, he sniffs that out, man.
But they just got these huge. I mean, maybe this is something you shouldn't talk about, but I mean, just like social posts, like how to do them and the way the company wants them. It's like a big article. It's a big document. So it's just it's just, and I understand once I got the understanding and it all makes sense. It was just something like, we had just never implemented anything like that before. So it was good. And then ultimately, we ended up getting to a place, it came right down to the wire, but we were able to close inside of 2020. A lot of that had to do with me really wanting that for political reasons and not knowing for sure what the future was and capital gains and some of that. So we kind of, we didn't rush it. We did everything we needed to, but we wanted to get it done inside of 2020 and we made it all happen. And so everybody kind of, nothing changed though. All the employees are the same. I'm still in control. I was, so a lot of that was good.
So when you're like, when you're going through this, Jason, and you're like all these negotiations are happening, and you're like dealing with people. I imagine like you said, there's guidelines for how they post, and for a company like Meateater that's they've got these Netflix shows, and they're just this. I mean, they're the name in hunting, right? I mean, they are the name, and so they're big and they're under a lot of scrutiny. So I understand that kind of stuff. And I guess like what I'm curious about is as you're going through this process, is it like Steve Ranella that you're actually negotiating this stuff with? Are you dealing with his like business team or lawyers or?
Yeah. So I mean, I can give I don't know how interested people are in this, but Steve was involved a little bit from a high level. Our friendship definitely kicks it off. There's a CEO involved, which even though Steve is the Meateater, there's actually a CEO that runs the entire family of companies that is, and then they've got a board that they also report to. So like there was that high level group of, do we want to spend the money? how are we going to make our money, like that sort of stuff. But then I dealt directly with two of their individuals, which is like the vice president of operations and vice president of finance. And they're kind of the skilled crew that looks at these acquisitions and really knows like the ins and outs of, I learned more about EBITDA than I ever wanted to. I'm like, what the hell is that? Well, it's like earnings before interest, debt, taxes, and I'm like, and that's what they value again. So, I mean, I worked with those two almost exclusively. And it was as much as you can use the word awesome to deal with. It was actually a pretty good experience. Like I never felt, and this was very important to me. I never felt like Meateater was trying to like get the upper hand. It was mentioned multiple times. Well, this would be in your favor. This would be in our favor, but we're trying to like go right down the middle of the road.
Just kind of balance that. Yeah.
Yep. It was very important that Dirk came along. It was very important that I came along. Without either of us, the deal really wasn't going to work. They wanted to maintain the same characters. Even when I start to hint like we want to be more like Meateater, like, do this, they put you right back in your place. Like, no, we've told you before, we want you to maintain Phelps identity. We don't want you to change what you post, who you guys are. And so it kind of was nice and reassuring that they told me multiple times, like, you are going to stay exactly who you are. You're going to run the company the way you see fit, and we're going to give you some tools that make you more efficient. And that's really what it came down to. And hopefully once I get out from this like transition period and figuring out what, Dirk figuring out like what a sales plan and a marketing plan needs to look like for him, hopefully it frees up a bunch of time so that we can do what we're good at and, make funny content, go hunting, promote the calls, design new calls. And that's really where I hope me and Dirk can get to, once we can kind of get this thing rolling.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said with your guys' creativity in your content. And I say that because you'd think that a guy, like in my shoes, I'm doing this podcast, and I'm watching all these bigger names out there, like Meateater and Phelps Game Calls, and even like the Bugler brand and Born and Raised Outdoors, and all these bigger names that everybody that hunts is generally familiar with. And I've always thought, okay, Meateater's doing this, and they're so out of my league as to what I do. I can't even go there, right? And so I feel like I want to get back to that. I want to talk about Steve a little bit more because you guys know him personally. But we'll circle back to that one. But the point is like your guys' content, it's funny, it's creative, it's unique, and from somebody like my standpoint, I watch it and it helps guide me in how, because I don't know what I'm doing on social media. I mean, I seriously don't. I make posts and they bomb. And it's like, oh shit, man, what was I thinking? I had too much whiskey or something, and it seemed like a good idea at the time. But
I mean,
so I hope you guys don't lose that because I need the guidance.
No, I'm gonna let Dirk just take control of that. I mean, I've got an engineer's mindset. Like sometimes I'm boring, dull. We can kick it up and have fun, but like Dirk's kind of the mastermind behind, what you see at least for the last couple of years, and that's nice when I have enough trust in him. Like I don't need to monitor that. Like I know Dirk's going to do a good job.
I got a weird question on that. I got a weird question on that. So let's talk about like Instagram for a minute. Do you guys both have the ability to get on and post on there, and do you, or is it all just one of you guys?
No, we both get on there.
Because it's funny
we both
how
have the login.
You can kind of look at it and you're like, God, that must have been Dirk, or nah, that was Jason. Like, and so I was curious about that. So, Dirk, I got a question for you. So, we've been buddies for a few years, and things were going along. Everything was, you were working for an optic company down in Orfino, and then you were telling me, okay, I got a job with Phelps, and I was like all excited for you because I mean, who wouldn't want to work for Phelps Game Calls, right? Right. It's the cool call company, and everybody knows them, and it's like the company going somewhere, it's never stagnant. I was all excited for it. So you're going along, you get this job with Jason, and you're doing all the marketing and all these hunts and filming all this stuff, and then Jason calls you up and he's like, hey man, what do you think of Meateater buying us, or however that conversation went? What was your reaction initially?
I was actually pretty excited because from the outside looking in and dealing with Jason on a almost daily basis, my first thoughts were, oh man, this could be really great for him to be able to have more time with his family.
Mm-hmm.
Because I honestly don't know when the man sleeps. You know, he worked his normal day job, then he would work Phelps Game Call stuff, and man, I don't know when the man slept, but all I could think of is, man, this could be really great for him to not be working 2 jobs anymore. And
Yeah.
Of course, I had some questions and concerns, but as we talked more with the Meateater group about any of the concerns and stuff, it just sounded better and better all the time. Like Jason said, it didn't sound like they were ever trying to get a leg up on us at all. They want to do it right, and you know, I think they think that happy employees are great employees. So.
It's got to be. They have
cool.
that. They have that culture there. You know, you could just tell because they have a ton of different podcasts. They have, you know, all this different stuff going on, and everybody just seems like they're super happy and committed to the brand of Meateater. So that's interesting, and because I kind of geek out on the business side of stuff a lot, and I talked to Dirk a little bit about this, you know, a couple weeks ago or whatever, and that it's just there is this solidified cultural level of commitment that is, you know, you could say it's unmatched in a lot of other, whether it's in the hunting industry or not. And was that a draw for you guys?
I'll take this one a little bit and Dirk can answer. I'm going to throw this in there. I'm just glad with Dirk turning 60 in a couple of years that he was able to get some health insurance.
60? That's more than a couple.
No, that was, and this is going to sound, I don't know what the right word is, but it's going to sound like I feel like a lot of these meetings, like within the hunting industry, that I'm not necessarily always the smartest person in the room, but I'm up there, you know, like I'm in the top 75, top 25% as far as like I'm not bad. I'm not dumb, especially coming from PL. But every one of these meetings you would go in with like a Meateater person. It's like a testament to how skilled they truly are. Like they've got the best of the best. Like when it comes to, you know, whatever it is, accounting, when it comes to, you know, whatever it is, publishing something or getting a launch out or doing this, like I don't even know all these employees yet, but they're still to this day, there's new names that pop up like, oh, so-and-so is the expert at that. Go get a hold of them. Or so-and-so is the best at like brand relations. Like they've got the best of the best in all of these positions. And like coming from a company where I wore all those hats, it's like, man, you basically get like the dream team, you know, the all-star team to basically have your back and help you do business, which was, you know, a huge turn on for me that, you know, hey, me and my wife don't got to like struggle to get through the books anymore, or hey, we don't have to figure this out. They've got a team that will tell us exactly what needs to be done. And it was reassuring knowing that as this company grew out of potentially what I could handle at the capacity we could handle, that it's in very, very good hands, and let them kind of grab the torch along with me, and we'll drag it together.
That's a great point. And this question would be for either one of you. Is there anything about this that makes you guys nervous?
Man, I can't really think of a thing.
No, I'm not. I don't think nervous. One of the things it's been like tough to transition into is like all of our, we had our brand alliances, Meateater has theirs, and sometimes they're competitors. And so it's like, how do you deal with that? We don't want to look like flip floppers. We don't want to just use it because we've gained. And so we've been walking on pins and needles, just trying to deal with that so it makes the most sense for the whole entire team.
Yeah.
That's been one thing, and we knew going in, how does this work? And then, one of the things which makes sense is, it's like, I don't want to say Meateater owns you, but in some respect, they own your content, your creative, your intellectual property. And so that was a little, once I understood it, it all made sense. But going into it, the first couple of conversations, hey, you mean I couldn't go make anything to do with, I couldn't go design my own backpacking bar, or I couldn't design my own, trekking poles or something like that. Like everything we now do in the industry is a part of the Meateater brand.
So you can't you can't just like kind of if you had some other product idea, now you make calls, and let's say maybe you wanted to make I don't know, hunting socks. you can't just go out and do that. Is that's what you're saying?
Correct. Yeah. Every idea we would have had to have been negotiated at the time of the deal. So, like it just is what it is. I kind of relate it back to in my past life when I was like a bridge engineer. We developed some software, or a guy developed some software. He could have been a multimillionaire, but since he worked for the state at the time he developed that, they basically own the software. So it's kind of, it's within your normal job duties. So it's just kind of, like Dirk, at Night Force, if he came up with an idea or developed the latest and greatest scope, it's like, well, he wouldn't make the money on that. That was part of his job duties, which when I think about that, it starts to make a little more sense. But I think deep down, the bugler and Dirk and myself, like having that entrepreneurial like heart, it's kind of tough to swallow, because it's like you kind of lost some of that creative. But I don't think we lost it. It just goes to a Meateater platform, which is going to be great because
winter is a great time to get stocked up, geared up, and dialed in for this coming hunting season coming up in 2021. So I want to save you guys some money. And first off, let's start with Hoffman boots. Hoffman boots are the boot of choice at the Western Huntsman, and Hoffman boots used to be like this little North Idaho secret with their hunting boots. But these boots are great boots. They won't cost you as much as some of the other top name brands out there, but they are every bit as good. And to save it even a little bit more money, I want you to type in the promo code Huntsman10 to save you 10% off at checkout. Now, I got to give you a fair warning real quick up front with Hoffman boots. They're like 6 weeks out right now on orders because everybody is jumping on the Hoffman boot train, and you should too. Next, I got Scree Gear, extreme mountain gear. This high-performance hunting attire and gear is specifically tested for camel patterns throughout the North American continent, and it's backed by a great company. Guys, Scree has a great history. I tested this gear all last season, and I put that gear through the ringer, up and down, left and right, to and fro. Save you a little bit of money. Use promo code The Western Huntsman at checkout to save you 15% off and free shipping. That's a hell of a deal. Check out Scree Gear, ScreeGear.com. It'll be in the show notes. Last and certainly not least, Phelps Game Calls, the choice, the selected call company of the Western Huntsman officially for 2021. Guys, there's some big things happening with Phelps Game Calls, and I can't say enough good things about this company. What a story. Started in just like this workshop, and now it's one of the premier hunting call companies out there on the market. And if you haven't tried Phelps Game Calls, you're really missing out. You really are missing out on those diaphragm elk reeds. They are amazing, and the amp frame is an absolute game changer. Check it out at Phelps.com and use promo code Huntsman10 at checkout to save you 10%. Let's get back into the conversation, guys. Thank you to our sponsors, and thank you for supporting our sponsors. Here we go. Yeah, that's a great point, Jason. Because that's what I guess my initial reaction was to that is I'm like you guys in terms of the entrepreneurial heart, and I think about that and the possibility of, I don't want to use or losing freedom sounds super dramatic, because you're not losing freedom, right?
No.
It's not that, but there is something to that, and my concern of you guys have like the Bugler brand. Everybody, when I post pictures of whatever I'm doing out there, I'm always wearing, because I'm such a fangirl, I'm always wearing the Bugler hat, or I'm wearing my Phelps hat, and all this kind of stuff. And my initial reaction was, man, are we going to lose all that? And it doesn't sound like it sounds like Meateater is really good about it. Similar to like their First Light investment in all that kind of stuff. So I want to tell you a little story, Jason, that I figured this out long before you guys announced it, and and I nailed it. And it was I actually told Dirk this story when we spoke after you guys announced it, but You had gone hunting with Giannis, right? Did I say his name right?
Yep.
Giannis Pudelis, is that right?
Patelis.
No, I know. Patelis. So you'd gone elk hunting with him, and they all came back to their studio, and they were recording a podcast and whatnot. And so Steve Ranella was asking Giannis about your elk hunt or whatever. And Steve was like, well, yeah, so how was it? And Giannis was like, it was a great time. We did this, we did that. And Steve was like, how was it, hunting with Phelps, and it was the way he responded when he's like, I really like it. And I told you earlier, I geek out on the business side of stuff, and I do a lot of what this transactional thing you're talking about in my day job. That people don't really know about, but that part of it, the way he responded is, I really like him, and it's like they had this moment where they were sharing this. They knew something that they weren't going to say behind a microphone, but knowing that conversation was going to carry on outside of the podcast kind of thing, and this was back in October or something, or maybe November, and I remember thinking then. Man, I'll bet you they're talking to Phelps about buying Phelps Game Calls.
So I don't want to deflate. I don't want to deflate your balloon here, but unless maybe Giannis found out after or in the meantime, because I remember going on that hunt and I got hey, Giannis doesn't know yet. He doesn't quite need to know yet. Only Steve knew. So here I am hunting with Giannis, and it was tough to hold my tongue. We can't talk about what we're even talking about. And so I wonder if maybe by that time he had known. But you
guys had hunted in September, and this was October, September, or November. Yeah. So I don't know, but it was just that exchange made me suspicious of it. And don't burst my balloon, Phelps. I feel like I'm kind of smart sometimes. I want to feel like I had some behind the scenes.
He probably knew by then. Yeah,
I don't know. It just that's something what triggered my curiosity, and overall, I think it's cool, man. I think this is cool. Yeah. Where'd you guys hunt on that hunt, by the way? Was that Wyoming?
That was southern Colorado.
Southern
desert,
Colorado.
Real dry. And then it was a good hunt. I'm amazed at Colorado. Spots that just aren't supposed to be good, not have big bulls, and then we go in and get into rut fest. And I'm still at sucker. It might not have giant bulls, but it had big enough bulls, and there were a lot of them, and they were vocal, and it was awesome for the 3rd of September. So it's you couldn't beat that.
Would you say is Colorado your favorite state to hunt outside of your home state?
I think Wyoming is still impressive. Wyoming is just, of course, maybe it's the units I've been to or the areas, but it's pretty dang good in Wyoming.
What about you, Dirk? You got a favorite?
I like Wyoming a lot. I will say, I don't know if it's just stupidity or what. I just love good old North Idaho. It's not because of the fantastic elk hunting, because it doesn't have fantastic elk hunting at all. But I think
my ass every year.
The area, the countryside, the scenery, the beauty, the familiarity, the nostalgia, all that. I love that. So I feel like, man, I always want to be able to come back to North Idaho and hunt if I can somewhere, somehow, which is dumb. I live closer where I live now. I live a lot closer to way better elk hunting than North Idaho, but I still have that beck and call. Right now, I'm literally looking at Google Earth at my little honey holes up north, just oh, what about this little spot right there? Oh, there's some tracks going through the ferns. Yep.
Dude, now that you moved down south, I feel like it's not out of line for me to have you send me some pins.
Yeah, probably not going to happen.
No, we're going to work it out. You come up and hunt with me anytime, buddy. But no, I think I know what you mean, Dirk. That familiarity side of it. North Idaho is not somewhere I would recommend somebody from, if they're in Minnesota or Philadelphia or somewhere back east and they want to come to the west and hunt. I would never say North Idaho. But when you live in the area and you hunt it enough to get to a point in which there is that level of familiarity.
Yeah, I always discourage folks from coming to North Idaho. And it's not just because I think they should not overpopulate my hunting spot. But no, but really, it's like level 10 difficulty. You know, if you don't know where those little spots are to find the elk, you may go 10 days without even seeing one. Whereas, you know, finding elk most of the time is the hardest part of hunting elk, is just finding them. So I always say, you know, bigger, more open kind of country where you can maybe glass them up first and then start hunting them. That's going to be a lot easier for especially new folks to hunting.
Sure.
And then just the vastness of the North Country there is just ridiculous. I mean, you could, if you don't know their little secret hidey holes, you've got the odds.
Be walking a lot. Yeah, for sure. That's a whole other podcast, Dirk.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting way off topic here.
So the one question that's really gnawing at us from like a business acquisition kind of situation is, as a whole, does Meateater, the crew over there, are they more a Maverick guy or a pink Phelps guy?
Oh, I don't know what I'm trying to remember what Giannis. I think Giannis uses a little bit of both. I think Steve is a pink signature guy. I think Garrett, their marketing guy, uses a Maverick. It's it's about a 50-50. We'll have to put a poll out later. Figure out exactly where it lays.
You should. That'd be pretty cool. But I know I can't remember who it was. Somebody was who was that? They were bragging on the gray amp.
Well, I can't remember.
And I like the gray amp too, to an extent, but no, that's and just as clarification, nothing's going to change with your lineup, right?
Nope. Everything's pretty much staying the same. We, as part of that, I got to come over as the president. We had some projects we were already working on to release this year. So, I got kind of wrapped up in the transition, since everything this company's ever did is basically in between my two ears, and it's not a good, I hate using the analogy, like if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, this company would be in a bad place, because I know where everything's at. I know who we order from. I know what our part numbers are. And it would be very tough for somebody else. So like part of this transition is like get everything out of my head and on the paper. I think Dirk was asking for like our smaller bugle tube plans, my engineered plans, and I think it took me 2 weeks to get him the right damn. That's how scattered my stuff is. Like I don't have.
No, I'm the same way, man. You know what's funny is I told my wife's like, well, who you doing a podcast with? And I'm like, well, we're having Jason Phelps on, the Phelps Game Call guys, and Dirk on, and she's like, wait a minute, Phelps hasn't paid their invoice. I didn't know that. So I wanted to remind you that the fine print on the bottom says, if you get acquired by Meateater and haven't paid your invoice, it's times 500.
Oh, I see how this goes. You called me on a podcast just to remind me that I haven't paid my invoice. Yeah,
that's how I do my late fees. That's my
touche.
I am the collections department here at the Western Huntsman Podcast. It just goes. It's funny you highlight that, because I'm totally the same way. I mean, you're probably a lot better at it than I am. I don't know jack about anything like that's going on here. Not that we have any kind of real revenue going on here at the show, but I'm clueless with it. So it's super interesting. I want to know, kind of like you guys have both been to Bozeman to the Meateater place, right? And sat in their podcast studio, and that was actually a really cool. That was an interesting podcast you guys did with them. And I don't think it was the last one. It was the one before that. Maybe I'm wrong, but anyway, I think a lot of people wonder this. What is Steve Ranella like? Before you answer, I want to give you, from my perception, I'm a super curious guy. I feel like Steve is a lot more of a curious guy than I am. Like, he's a super curious dude. He's intentional. He's got stuff super organized. He does these videos with his garage where everything's like perfectly organized. I'm not one of those dudes. The only thing that keeps me going, my desk is always a mess, but my wife's found some statistic that, a genius has a really messy desk. And so I've been riding on that for like 10 years and using it as an excuse not to clean anything. But so those are some of my perceptions from somebody who's kind of, well, I've never talked to Steve or anything like that. What's he like in, man to man kind of behind the scenes?
I'll let Dirk, you want to take the first crack and then I'll fill in any.
I thought Steve was pretty interesting. I thought he was a very thoughtful person when he spoke. He was very intent on listening to what everyone had to say. Before we ever got into the podcast, he looked very deliberate and very intent on listening and understanding what everyone said, and he just seemed real deliberate in the way he spoke and super down to earth, just not like super intense, like, oh God, there's Steve Rinella burning holes through me, with his eyes.
I'd be kind of nervous, man, talking to him.
Yeah, he was not an intimidating person to talk to at all. Just very down to earth, normal guy, and it was, which made the podcast easier. So
yeah, I think the first word to describe him is extremely busy. Now that whether people want to call me his boss or a coworker or whatever our terminology is, he's the busiest guy in the world. Between everything he's got going on, I think I'm busy. I think he might be maxed out even more. He's the other thing, and I think everybody's recognized, like, so sharp, and I think Dirk's word deliberate and intentional. Like when he goes into a podcast, I think there was probably 10, 15 minutes of silence, Dirk, just as he went through his agenda, make sure that he had everything and that he was going to do a good job and that what he produces is going to be a high level and that there were no surprises on his podcast agenda and he knows the talking points. And then during our last podcast, one of the, his humor is, whether it's kind of cooked in or whether it was not, I think what they opened up, the first two questions we got were something about if you had a hot aunt, would you tell anybody about it? And then about and then a titty twister, what do you call the purple? And somehow we ended up getting off on a tangent, and those were just kind of his ice. But it's like, man, I need to know if these are coming because I'm the most awkward guy ever. If you just hit me with that question.
Remember that, man. The hot ad comment and the titty twister thing, and then they were trying to get you guys to have this competition of whistling an elk bugle or something like that. It sounded like an elk from far away. Yeah. I thought that was pretty good.
Of course, I'm so literal. I'm like, man, are one of my aunts going to listen to this since they know I'm on the Meateater podcast? And how do I answer this? So next time I'm just going to roll with it.
Make for an awkward Thanksgiving coming up.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting. I'd probably pay one of you guys money under the table, tax free, if you recorded that little planning session before the podcast starts that you were talking about, because I don't do any of that because I don't know how. I just get on and talk with people, so I don't. Yeah. And that's not always been the case. I used to make out, and Dirk probably knows this because I think I sent him one time because he was my first podcast guest. And I used to do these big outlines of, okay, we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about that. And they sounded like I did that. And finally I threw one of those away. I threw one away. Yep. I'm like, I'm not fucking doing this anymore. This is stupid. Yep. And the conversations just started flowing better for me. So I'd be curious to know, because his podcast is really good. And I'd be curious to know what he does.
Yeah, no, it was more the follow-up. So I don't know what the right word is, and I'm not saying you're not professional.
No, you can say that. I admit it. I don't care.
They get so much they may make an error on 2 podcasts ago, and they'll come back and correct it in that podcast. So they've got kind of that news, catching up on news, and then they go into those icebreakers, and then they kind of get into that nuts and bolts. And so he's not necessarily, and I agree with you 100%. The podcast I've been on where somebody sends me an agenda, I'm like, this is it's not dumb. It's just, I don't want to talk about these same 10 things over and over. I'd rather just have a conversation. And he doesn't necessarily script all the points, but, he'll maybe just have some talking points down or, stuff to spur his, the conversation. But no, he doesn't go deep and like send an agenda out and say, this is what we're going to talk about.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Like I said, yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I don't like to have boundaries in the podcast, and it doesn't sound like he does either. They just kind of plan stuff out. Obviously, they have to correct stuff like that. They have hundreds of thousands of listeners versus my thousands. So big difference, and a lot more scrutiny. But Dirk, we haven't heard much from you. What do you got to say about it?
Ask me a question.
What'd you have for dinner tonight?
Oh man, you shouldn't have asked that question. I'd really like to tell you I had something really cool and like exotic, but so I was at Costco the other day, and I was in the frozen food section. I see these things. It's a bacon wrapped chicken breast with some kind of weird funky cheese in the middle. Right? The picture looked good, and then we had these salmon patties that were in the freezer forever. And Jessica says, I'm not eating those. I'm like, how bad could they be? She's like, well, they expired in May of 2020. And I'm like, they've been frozen. They're individually packaged.
Yeah, that just means frozen. You got to freeze them by then. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. So she put the salmon patties in the air fryer, and she put the the bacon wrapped chicken breast cheese thing in the oven. And I'm just gonna say I took kind of took one bite of that salmon patty thing and threw it in the garbage. It was no good. No good. And then and then the chicken breasting, I don't know, it said cook it 30 minutes, so we cooked it 30 minutes, but man, it was drier than a popcorn fart, man. I couldn't hardly choke that thing down. I had to use a lot of White Claw to wash her down with.
So what you're saying is it was a letdown.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't anything like the picture.
How'd that mule deer from Montana taste? I forgot to ask you about that. Is it good?
Dude, it's so good. It's funny. Everybody usually has a opinion on wild game of whatever kind. Mule deer. Oh, mule deer's no good. It tastes terrible.
I had some guy tell me
like sage.
I had some guy tell me the other day that he won't eat those stinky donkeys if you paid him money. And I'm like, you're crazy, man.
Yeah, that's crazy talk. Because this thing, he was rutted up big time, and it's delicious. It's really mild. The meat's mild. It's tender. It's not tough. It's amazing. I was very thrilled with it. The cougar, that cougar I shot, I made a bunch of breakfast sausage, and oh man, it's amazing.
I'm a little sensitive to that. Because like you came to North Idaho and didn't hit me up to come into the studio, man.
I was nowhere close to you.
I thought you said you come up to North Idaho.
Well, I use that.
It's a broad term.
Yeah, I use that term very loosely.
Phelps, you ever get a mountain lion, man?
I haven't. The most exotic thing I've ate this year was that mountain goat.
Yeah.
The mountain lion's definitely on the list, though. Everybody says it's amazing eating, and then just one of those things I wanted to do, hunt behind dogs before. It's illegal everywhere, which hopefully it doesn't come to that. But I feel like maybe our days are numbered on that, and so I want to get one in before it's gone.
Yeah, I think you're going to be just about down to coming to Idaho for chasing cougar with the dogs, because it's under assault everywhere, man. I've been busy this winter with all that stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy right now. I think the last 2 or 3 weeks, like trying to follow all these House bills and stuff from all these different states, whether it's Washington, California, Montana, it's like, man, some of this legislation is it's crazy, and I don't know eventually how long, it's up to us to keep fighting it forever, but man, so much is crazy, and it's never going to go away.
No, it's just going to get worse, and I've had a few conversations on that stuff lately. It's like this societal shift has taken place where I don't know what's going on, but these huge urban areas are just there. They don't take themselves out of that kind of life where they're so disconnected from things like where meat comes from or whether or not you should even eat meat. And the thought of going and hunting a mountain lion with dogs is so wickedly evil and all these things. It's been piling up like crazy. The legislation this year that has come down the pike, and not just out of, California and Washington, but trapping legislation out of New Mexico, and it's this weird non-resident thing that's going on in Montana, and it's keeping me on my toes for sure. So when you guys are, you're all meat-eatered up and all that kind of stuff, are you still willing to come and see me in the studio, little old me? I know my studio is a slight downgrade. Actually, Jason, you haven't been to the studio, haven't you?
I have not yet. No, but it's on the bucket list.
It should be. I have a plastic urinal.
Yeah. He's got a really cool bathroom stall in there. Doug Flutie even signed it.
Doug Flutie signed that bad boy, and so I took a picture of that signature and I put it online. And you know what Doug Flutie did? He wrote, "For a good time, call Doug Flutie." I was so offended.
Is that why you keep calling me?
Sorry, buddy. It's tempting every time I go in there, and I go in there a lot. So, no, that's great, guys. I'm pretty excited for both of you guys with this. It's big news, Anytime you take one brand that is huge, it's successful, and from my standpoint. First of all, thank you both for the support on this show. Not only do you guys come on the show whenever I ask, but you guys also, Phelps is a sponsor of the show, and we value that a lot, and so we appreciate that. And when I say we, I mean me and my dog Trevor over here that's laying down snoring because I'm a one-man show over here. But it's always good having just that feeling of having folks like you guys out there and brands like Phelps that support the show. And I'm really excited to see what's gonna kind of come down the pike for you guys with Meateater, because that's a big deal. Like, what are you guys most excited about?
Man, I feel like are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my headphones, I thought they cut out. Well, I think what I'm most excited about is I feel like I'm gonna get to hunt like probably more than I want.
Yep.
You already hunt a lot, dude, and I can't imagine how much more time you're gonna get. Phelps, you hunt a lot too, man.
Yeah, it'll be good. I think it's more where working the 9 to 5 for the state. I would there at the end. I was able to take a lot of leave without pay, and so I could hunt as much as I could. But now, that I've been able to, I don't want to say retire, but basically leave state and do this full time now. And then it's like my job is to promote the calls. We'll get to spend a little more time, a little more freely without feeling guilty of. Hey, leave without pay. No, I'm going to go get paid to go sit under a tree and call a turkey in for my son, or I'm going to go get paid to try to, call in a spring bear. So that's kind of a little cool bonus. What I'm most excited about, because we'll get to hunt and do the same things we've been doing, is a lot of what we haven't even talked about, and the whole concept was like the legacy move. And a lot of people think I'm dumb for even talking about it.
No, man, that's important stuff.
There is a part of me that, like, all right, we cashed out, we made our money, they're paying us a good salary, but I want to see Phelps Game Calls get to be the biggest game call company in the world. And could I have did it on my own? Maybe, maybe not. Do I think my chances are better with the Meateater team behind me? Heck yes, I do. And so there's a lot of that, like, legacy move. Like, I want to see, my name, the brand's name that carries my name, known as the best game calls in the world, all around. And so there's a part of me like, that's my next goal now. Like, yeah, hunting and the content and all that leads to that. But, if our team, our group of guys and gals can get it there, like, I'll be stoked.
Yeah. The legacy part is a huge deal, and that's I think one of the most important things. It's not that I think anybody needs to feel anybody, but if somebody did need to feel better about the situation, is the fact that it's still you guys. It's still nothing really changes on that end, and that kind of leads me to the other question of because I've had a couple of questions about this. We now know, okay, Meateater's going to, they've purchased Phelps Game Calls. It's going to fall under the umbrella of the Meateater company, which is not a horrible place to be at all. What about, and nothing's going to change with Phelps Game Calls. That's what I meant to go there with. What about the Elk Collective? How do things look with the Elk Collective going forward with Meateater?
Well, I guess I could answer this one, Jason.
Yeah.
So being part of a content creation company, Meateater, we kind of had to back out of our responsibilities at the Elk Collective with John and Dan, just because we're working with and for a content creation company. They want all of our pistons firing on all 8 cylinders, towards the Phelps brand and the Meateater brand. Mm-hmm. So, if we're doing all these side gigs, like when we were doing negotiations with my employment contract and everything, they're like, man, you're like super difficult to figure out because I've got all these little side deals. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing
the Bugler brand, you're doing the Elk Collective.
I'm doing the Bugler brand, I'm doing the Elk Collective.
Your lingerie line.
My lingerie line. I got my hand in all these different pots, and they're like, we'd really like you to focus all your creativity and put that towards the Phelps brand and marketing. And I'm like, yeah, I think I can do that, because in the end, I'm like, it's not like I'm selling bathtubs now.
Yeah.
It's still something I'm really passionate about. If I can put all my focus on the Elk Calls and promoting Phelps and stuff, working with Meateater guys and girls, then I don't know. I just think it's going to be a cool deal. So I don't know that we would have had time, honestly, to put another ounce of time into the Elk Collective stuff. So, and that's not fair to our partners there either. If we're so deep on our other responsibilities that we can't help them out at all, then that's not fair of us to do. So,
are you guys able to contribute content to the Elk Collective still, or do you not even going to do that?
No, we're kind of what content was in there. They can continue to use and all of that, and it actually made our relationship a little easier, because there's some of that, like, well, if we're at Phelps Game Calls and promoting the heck out of the Elk Collective, and if they use our calls and do this, it could be looked at as kind of paying yourself through. And so it was just easier. Like, this actually lets us work with the Elk Collective moving forward for a while, and it just makes everything cleaner, versus so it ultimately it worked better to do it this way.
Well, I told one of you guys this, if the Elk Collective needs somebody to step in and help out, I can make videos of how not to hunt elk, and I think that's valuable for a lot of hunters out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Doug Flutie might already have his name in the hat for that position.
Damn Doug Flutie. God, he's a bane of my existence. I get more emails about Doug damn Flutie coming on the show. I tell you what, that guy, we're going to get him and his uncle on one time. Oh, no, that's great, guys.
No, and I think this is going to be a great move for working with Phelps and the Meateater team. My wife, she's like, oh, good. Now aren't you going to just love this? You'll be able to turn off your brain every night. You'll be able to have a set time to stop working every day, and you could come sit down on the couch and we can enjoy time together and all this stuff. You'll be able to turn off your brain. You won't be so, using your brain all the time to think up all this stuff. But it doesn't work that way.
No.
I'm sitting there watching Netflix, thinking up the next silly shit to put on the Phelps page about the pink the pink call,
Yeah,
so
the pink versus Maverick and the Maverick versus
Right.
pink. Yeah, one of my favorite videos you did, Dirk, was that one where you were like the used car sales guy with the big mustache, and you're like, "Yeehaw!" and you come out.
Oh yeah, I was selling mattresses and Mavericks.
Yeah, mattresses and Mavericks.
Yeah.
I got a pretty big kick out of that one. So.
That was a good one.
What's on the docket this year, guys? What tell us a little bit about what hunts you have coming up, and what elk season's looking like, what all that kind of stuff. Let's talk about it. We can't close out the show without a little hunt talk.
All right, I'll let Dirk go first.
Good old Idaho, of course, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do, whether I'm going to go rifle hunting in Idaho or bow hunting. I have a pretty good chance of drawing a Wyoming tag with my brother. My brother, Lance, he's been saving his points. He's just been buying points in Wyoming for the last 3 years. And
yeah, that's what I've been doing.
I've got 1 point, and I'm going to piggyback on with him and see if we can draw a Wyoming tag this year. Then I'm going to try to apply for a Montana combo elk and deer. Hopefully I can draw that. So that'll probably be my 2 archery hunts if I do draw those 2. Now, if I don't draw Montana or either one, it's going to be all up in the air. Who knows? I'm going to find some way to hunt somewhere. I mean, maybe I won't draw any tags at all, and I'll have good old Idaho, and then I'll maybe have to scramble and try to find something in Colorado or.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough question in February, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe I'll follow Jason around and just call for him all year.
There you go.
I don't mind that deal at all. I don't mind that one bit.
Is he a pretty good caller, Jason? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. Last year he had like the sun's eventually going to shine on a dog's ass every once in a while. We struggled for like 8 days straight, and then in like 15 minutes, I don't know if the elk were tone deaf there or if they had never heard another bull bugle before, but Dirk had got lucky and called 2 giants in about a 15-minute span. But other than that, he was no good.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Awesome.
No, he's all right. I've heard better, but he's pretty good.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what I've got going on. I think I'm gonna go back, and this is gonna tell on me where we got some landowner tags for New Mexico, so I think we're gonna put in for some different units, but we've got kind of another so-so unit that me and Lampers I think are gonna go to archery New Mexico. I should draw Montana. I've got 1 preference point saved, so I think I'm gonna put in for the combo, and then Giannis wants to do another Meateater hunts episode for archery elk.
In Montana or?
Yeah, in Montana there. I don't know what I'm like the first 15 days of September. I don't really have a plan. I haven't did this for a while, but I always kind of like maybe wait for the Washington draws to come out and maybe just hitchhike with somebody and just go call in a good unit, because I love hunting good units where it's just fun. So I might just leave that as my 2 archery elk hunts. I did draw. Or I was able to pick up an Idaho deer tag, which I think Dirk's going to join in on that one. I should be able to draw a Colorado deer tag. And then I did spend a little bit of money on a Mount Emily rifle tag in Oregon again. So I had the archery tag 2 years ago there. I was able to buy an outfitter tag this year for the Mount Emily rifle. So I think I'm going to do that.
Well, dude, you can come call for me if you had nothing else.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to do that.
Yeah,
Is that North Idaho, or are you going to put me in a good unit with lots of elk? Like
it's a really bad good unit.
Okay, all right, perfect. Because that's one of the things. Like I get maybe my most asked question: when are you going to come back home? From all the locals, when are you going to come back home and hunt around home and do a video on it? And it's like, man, it's similar to up north. You guys love it, but then I kind of do like the opposite with my home country. It's like, man, it's wet. It's gross. Everything in the creek bottom wants to poke you and stab you. And it's like everything's on like its 3rd logging now, so you can't walk in a straight line. You got to zigzag around all the old stumps. And it's just, I don't like anything about it, but no, it's, yeah. And then I've got a deer hunt in, I think, Old Mexico in January.
Oh, nice. I'm going on a Coos deer hunt in Arizona this summer.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep, that's where We're gonna go, baby whitetail hunting in Old Mexico.
You doing bow or rifle on that?
I'm doing rifle. Like, I'm the guy that like really kind of lays your odds out there, and like, all right, bow, I probably have 3% chance of killing. Muzzleloader maybe like 13, and then rifle, I like my chances over there.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking rifle too on that one, just because I've never done it before, and I actually want to bring one home. So, Dirk, you still coming to see me spring bear?
I think so. As long as you have one tied up and
I have one.
have him all fed up on donuts and stuff.
I'm gonna ride my donkey up there and lasso one and tie him to a tree. And I got some bait for us, man. I've never done it before, so we can learn together if you want.
Yeah.
You should
Phelps said
Phelps.
If you can guarantee that we can call a one in, then maybe he'll even come. So
now look, I really want. I tried it last year, and I really want to get one with this fawn in distress call on your predator. On the predator calls that you guys have.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what it's called. Fawn Jack closed reed. That one.
Yep.
That's what I was using last year. And okay, so for anybody that doesn't know, that thing calls in a shitload of coyotes. Okay, and that's what I kept calling in. And so it's actually done me a lot of favors this winter for coyotes.
Good.
But I've got to think that thing would work for bear. We've just got to figure it out.
No, I mean it's the right timing. Like, that's when the fawn should be dropping. It's in our opinion, the best call to use. We've used calf elk a little bit, but fawn in distress just seems to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm by no means a professional predator caller. We've definitely, on some of these spring hunts, that my home state of Washington seems to be managing for a freaking high quality bear hunt. And there are bear everywhere. Like, we've got them to move or like take off at us like on a sprint. Either we're not patient enough or they get distracted, but we've definitely got them to react and move in our direction with calling. It's just one of these days I need to sit down and call one all the way to my feet.
Yeah, me too. That's where I'm at with bear. And so it's an interesting thing. Like last year, it was funny. I was up bear hunting. I took that call, and I had my brother-in-law with me, and I start cranking on that sucker. And like 5 minutes into it, this white-tailed doe comes just charging at us up the mountain, and she was freaking out, and she's just bucking and kicking and running up the mountain, and she could like kind of see me sitting there behind some rocks, and then she kept circling us, and this went on for like 10 minutes, and she's snorting and she's making all this noise and ruckus and kicking the brush. She couldn't figure out where this fawn was that was screaming, but she knew where I was, and I was just it was a great bear spot. I know there's bears hanging out right there, but never did get a bear to come in. Only coyotes and a couple of does. So, but this year we got the hookup, man. I got some crazy good bait. I got some barrels set up. So you guys come on up. We'll get something. We'll make it happen.
Nice.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you guys. We've been running for a bit here, so I don't want to keep you too long. And Phelps, I know you need to get some sleep and plan a family vacation now with all this. I did want to say congratulations to you both. This is a cool move. This is a cool step. It's a big deal to be affiliated with the Meateater crew, and I mean anybody in the hunting industry knows that. And they're a great company. They put out great content, and I feel like you guys are going to be just like this perfect addition, something that they don't have right now. I think a lot of people wonder why they haven't had this kind of aspect of their business, and now you guys are involved, and it's going to be a good thing. So I'm excited for you, and congratulations, and I appreciate you guys coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Jim.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. It's been good.
Yeah.
Always like getting together and slapping our knees and laughing a little bit. So.
Yeah, me too. You guys are always fun. Both of you guys are always fun to have on the show. I appreciate your sense of humor and tolerating my ridiculous sound effects and songs I put on.
It was good.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Yeah, have a good one, Jim.
You made it all the way to the end. thank you so much for tuning into the show. We sure appreciate your support. This is Jim Huntsman signing off and reminding you to check us out at Instagram at The Western Huntsman and on Facebook at The Western Huntsman. And you can also check out the website at thewesternhuntsman.com. Thanks again. We'll see you guys next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.